Hey everybody, and Tony here with a review of Puccini's La Rondine, which was shown at the Deutsche Oper Berlin, and this marks its sixth performance since its premiere on March 8th, 2015. The conductor was Roberto Rizzi-Brignoli. The production was done by the famous tenor Rolando Villazon. The assistant director was Gerlinde Pelkowski. The set design was done by Johannes Lelaka. The costumes were handled by Brigitta Reifenstuhl. The lights were handled by Davy Cunningham. The chorus master was William Spalding. The choreographer was Silke Zenze. And the dramaturgy was done by Kurt Rösler. Now, La Rondine by the famous Italian Verissimo composer Giacomo Puccini was an opera that not a lot of people heard about. Oh sure, a lot of Puccini fans have heard about La Bohème, Tosca, Madama Butterfly, Girl of the Golden West, Trittico, and Turandot. But not a lot of people have heard about this particular opera, or even Edgar, or Le Villi. And there's pretty much a good reason behind why La Rondine wasn't really that well known. First of all, it was badly received since its premiere. And a lot of people have said that this opera was hackneyed, and it was just basically slammed during its premiere. Not to mention, this opera went through a lot of revisions, especially in the ending. Now, the first version had Prunier telling Magda that he should leave Ruggiero once and for all. And then the second ending had Magda confessing who she is, and Ruggiero rejects her and abandons her. And then the third ending has Magda telling Ruggiero that their relationship can't be possible, leaving Ruggiero all alone and all devastated. So there was definitely a lot of trouble with how this opera was going to really make its way through, well, as it is today. But still, it is a cult classic. Now, the second reason is that it is almost like La Traviata. It's a poor man's La Traviata because it's very similar in a lot of ways. Yes, both La Traviata and La Rondine are set in France, and they talk about the Parisian high life. And the main character is a French courtesan who is in love with a young man who is very rich, very wealthy, and is very much supportive of his family. And there is some issues going on between them. But unlike La Rondine, it doesn't end too tragically where the main heroine dies. The main heroine just leaves the main hero. That's pretty much it. And also, the story of La Rondine is basically something that I don't really like. I mean, what was the point of having Magda disguise herself as a simple student by the name of Paulette? I see no point in it whatsoever, and just finally have her confess that, okay, she is a high-class courtesan who is currently with a lover. And the story is definitely a huge mess. But what makes this opera a cult classic is the music. And two very well-known numbers have to be Magda's arias. The most famous one being Qu'il bel sogno di Doretta, which is a very well-known soprano concert piece. And it's been sung by a lot of different sopranos of the past and even of the present. Another aria that Magda sings is Ore dolci divine. Not as well known as Qu'il bel sogno di Doretta, but it's still recorded by a great number of sopranos. The other well-known number is the drinking song, Beva il tuo sorriso, sung by the main hero Ruggiero Lasduc, alongside Magda, the other grisettes, Prunier and Lizette, and also the other three gentlemen. So it's actually quite interesting of how this opera, though it was poorly received as a poor man's La Traviata, and on a harsher note, Bad Lehar, since this opera was also inspired by a lot of the operettas and actually tried to be an operetta as well, it was still having a cult classic because of the music and because of the fine tunes that this opera has in store. So let's get on to what I thought about the production, singers, and the conducting. Now, before I get to the actual production itself, I would have to say that I was very surprised when the world-famous tenor Rolando Villazon was the director of this production, because it almost came out of left field for me. And, well, it pretty much shows that he's got a lot of years of experience. He's a veteran tenor himself. He's seen how things are done on stage, so why not have a go? And I have to say that this is definitely a brave move of Monsieur Villazon, because I could really see that he really read the text, he really did his homework extensively, and I could really see just how well he did his research in the terms of the Parisian life, the Parisian high style, the life in the olden days, like the 20s and 30s. It basically all came into place, and it all came into play, all because of this production. And I have to say that the sets were gorgeous. It almost makes me feel like I'm watching an art film, like a French art film combined with that of a Hollywood film. It's like they're combined into one interesting facet, and then I get this. It was just really gorgeous, really well done, and it really, really kept me on my seat for a very long time. What's also worth mentioning was that we have these three men in like these faceless masks. I don't know what they were supposed to be, but something tells me that they're more than Magda's suitors, but they're also like a Greek chorus-esque style of people that really have to move the story along and really determine the fates of each of these characters. Hence, there's like one with like a mirror frame, and they're sharing mirror frames to each of the main characters of the opera to determine their fates. So it's actually quite interesting and really adds a sense of mysticism. And at the end of the opera, we see that, well, Ruggiero is basically a suitor to Magda, or basically now a former suitor, so he now takes the mask, which I thought was quite eerie as well and kind of creepy, but it kind of had a certain symbol saying that he can't belong to her anymore. He has to let her go. He has no choice. And the costumes, I may add, were very gorgeous, especially the costumes of the dancing girls doing like the Charleston. I was just totally like immersed and really like thinking to myself, they're just so gorgeous. Every single costume was just so gorgeous. I really loved the wigs. I really loved the dresses, the suits, everything. So in short, this production just bursts with color, vibrance, and just pure elegance. The singing is really fine as well. Now, the interesting thing about the four main lovers is that they have to be sung by singers who have a very solid bel canto technique, because these are very lyrical roles as well. They don't need a lot of like barking or like a lot of heavy singing. They're really lyrical, even though they have some dramatic parts here and there. So it's all lyrical singing that they have to do. And the four main singers, Aurelia Florian, Joseph Calleja, Alvaro Zambrano, and Alexander Hutton really did wonderfully. Now let's start off with Aurelia Florian, who I saw last year as Amalia from I Masnadieri, and who I also saw a couple of times on YouTube as well. She still maintained that really gorgeous tone, and she had such brilliant high notes, and such great theatricality as well. She was just very gorgeous from beginning to end in her acting, in her singing, in her intonation, and her enunciation as well. Sure, her intonation does tend to be sharp, but it's a very fine voice, and I'm sure they'll end up aging a lot better in the near future, just like fine wine, because I really see a lot of potential in her, which is no surprise since she's also been singing a lot of roles in the bel canto era, and also that of roles by Mozart, and even some roles in the French repertoire. So she really shows her versatility as Magda de Civri in this opera. And then we have her lover sung by Joseph Calleja. He basically sung the role of Ruggero Lastic. I heard this tenor several times on YouTube. I even have him singing La Donna Mobile in this compilation CD, Classics 2004, which I ended up having ever since I was about 12 years old and have listened to his rendition several times. And let me just tell you, hearing him live was rewarding. Every time I heard his voice, whether on YouTube or on Spotify, I really keep telling myself, my goodness, it would be such a thrill to hear this gentleman's voice live. And I certainly got my wish. It's a very incisive, gorgeous toned, lyrical, plush, and just vivacious tenor instrument. His high notes were piercing and solid, and his timbre smooth, gorgeous, and it's just like velvet. It's just like a great amount of fabric that you could sew, and voila, a great piece of tapestry through the voice of Joseph Calleja. And he had such great theatricality as well. He didn't overact, he didn't go hammy, but he was just gorgeous. That's all I need to say. He was just a very gorgeous figure on stage with such a velvety tone and great theatricality and very emotional singing. He really made the evening for me. And then we have Lisette, who is Magda's maid, sung by our very own Alexandra Hutton. Just lovely in this role. She was able to give this character a sense of feist and a sense of charm and also a sense of vivacity, and she really let it rip in her singing as well. Her high notes are clear and crystalline as usual, and her theatricality is just fun and vivacious. She even has great chemistry with the prunier of the evening, Alvaro Zambrano. They really do make a great team together, which is no surprise because these two have been in several productions in the Deutsche Oper Berlin, and you could really see their chemistry blossom and really bloom, and it's just great seeing these two work together. And speaking of the prunier of the evening, we have Alvaro Zambrano. Fine voice, very, very vivacious stage presence, and he was just a lot of fun to watch. He basically has a contrasting voice to Joseph Calleja's more fuller-toned, full lyric tenor voice that borders on spinto tenor. With Alvaro Zambrano, his voice, like I said in probably a lot of my other videos, it's a light lyric tenor voice that is so Italianate, so fresh, and so vivacious and agile, which he was able to use very well, and with such great theatricality as prunier, he's also able to make him a very loyal friend to Magda, and he was just fun all around in this role. And then we have Stefan Bronk singing the role of Rambaldo Fernandez. Now, even though Rambaldo is usually sung by a dramatic baritone, a lot of bass baritones and even bassos even flock to sing this role because, for one thing, Rambaldo sits relatively low and relatively on the middle range for any baritone and basso, which means that it's equal opportunity for a lot of bass baritones and low baritones to sing this character role. Very fine voice, very magnificent stage presence, and a very commanding and very handsome stage presence. Even though his role is very thankless, it's still a very fine performance that he did, and he was really charming all around. He had such a masculine charm to his character that it was just really hard to take my eyes off of him. Then we have the three gentlemen, who are the following. One of them is Perichot, sung by Noel Bully, Gauban, sung by Sonny Boy Dladla, and Crébillon, sung by Thomas Lehman. These three gentlemen really sung their roles very well, with Noel Bully's bass baritone voice, Sonny Boy Dladla's light lyric tenor voice, and Thomas Lehman's lyric baritone voice. Their voices blended perfectly, and they had great chemistry with each other. And then we have the three grisettes, Yvette, Bianca, and Susie, sung by Shaban Stagg, El Benita Caitazzi, and Stephanie Loricella, respectively. Their tones were harmonious, gorgeous, and just pleasing to the ear. If you combine Shaban Stagg's lyric coloratura voice with El Benita Caitazzi's light lyric soubretish voice to that of Stephanie Loricella's high lyric mezzo voice, you get a match made in heaven. Almost like the three boys singing. Almost like Voglinde, Velgunda, and Flosilde singing. Almost like the three nymphs of Ariadne auf Naxos. You know, Naiad, Triade, and Echo singing. Their intonation, their chemistry, and how they really work off of each other is just gorgeously done and just heavenly. Then we have the very, very small role of the Major Domo, sung by Carlton Ford. Very fine voice and very fine stage presence as well. So overall, the singing is probably some of the best that I've ever heard, as to be expected by the singers of the Deutsche Oper Berlin, and especially with such big names like Joseph Calleja and Aurelia Florian. And the conducting done by Roberto Rizzi Brignoli was fine. There were no moments that dragged, no moments that left me bored. It was just solid all around. So overall, what a great evening to catch an opera like La Rondine. Sure, its story is not the best that I've ever heard because of its lack of originality and its kind of confusing plot. But still, the music is definitely something that I could root for, and this production, done by Rolando Villazon, proves to me that he really has such a great vision when it comes to being an opera director, as a lot of his predecessors were. Remember Brigitte Fassbender? She also was a very famous mezzo-soprano, and has also been an opera director, and a lot of other former opera singers or current opera singers that have gone this route of being an opera director. And I will have to say that Rolando Villazon really led the cast very well. I could really see that every one of them have put their hearts, sweat, blood, and tears into this production, and it came out very beautifully. I would really love to commend the four main singers, aka the two couples, Aurelia Florian, Joseph Calleja, Alvaro Zambrano, and Alexandra Hutton, for their fine performances and for their fine techniques and fine singing overall. And with the great conducting by Maestro Rizzi Brignoli, it was just an evening that was so worthwhile for me. If you haven't seen this production yet, I highly suggest you go check it out. You will not be disappointed. Well, that's all for now. I'm not so sure if I'm going to have a review of the open air Gendarmenmarkt, which is going to be on July 3, because, well, personal duties kind of are my priority as well, since I do have my summer theater, which is going to be on July 10 and July 11, and not to mention a lot of rehearsals with this theater troupe that I managed to get myself into. So until then, this is Antoni signing off and wishing you all a good night.